I built this automated data entry form in Excel in under 10 minutes, and it's a great example of how to make data entry smoother and more intuitive. When I'm designing a spreadsheet, it must be user-friendly. Adding form controls like drop-down menus and checkboxes and a submit button, that can really elevate the experience for your team or your clients or whoever you're sending this form to. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to build this form from start to finish and how to automate the logging of each entry onto a separate sheet. User features like this data entry form are part of the final step of the Excel Power-Up method, which is a step-by-step framework for building and upgrading spreadsheets. If this part of the process feels tricky, it might be because your spreadsheet is just not ready for user features yet. You need to spend some time on the more foundational power-ups like data organization or data analysis. To help you with that, I've created a free resource, the Excel Power-Up method cheat sheet. It's got the most important power-ups at a glance, perfect to keep on your desktop for quick reference while you're building and upgrading spreadsheets. You'll find the link below. Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I teach Excel users how to create spreadsheets they can be proud of. Welcome to Excel Power-Up. Let's take this spreadsheet through the Excel Power-Up method, starting with data organization. So here's the data that we have to work with. Let's say that we are collecting my team's ideas. The first thing we want to do is think about what is the main purpose of this spreadsheet. We don't want to jump right into building the form when we don't even know what kind of fields or what kind of questions we're going to be asking on the form. So let's start with the data. We have name, date, idea category, some other things about the idea, and if we can collect it all in this kind of table, then that will help us later when we're actually building the form. So data organization is all about getting something down and organizing it in the best way possible, and in my opinion, that means we're keeping things separate. So we have the data on this sheet, and then we're going to create a totally new sheet where our form is going to be. So we've got it separately. And then also data organization means, you guessed it, an Excel table. So we have our data here is not formatted as an Excel table. We're going to go to the Insert tab and then click Table. And we do have headers, so that will format it as a table. And you can change the style if you like. And then I always recommend naming it. So come up here to the Table Design tab, and the first group, table name, I'm going to call it Ideas. So now we have a place for the information to be collected to whenever we do get around to building our form. The next step in the Excel Power-Up method is data cleaning. Clean data is well formed, which means it's organized like this in rows and columns, and the data is consistent and correct. So here you can see some missing information like this person's last name. These dates are not formatted all in the same way, so I'm just going to choose the one that I like and use the format painter to format them all the same way. We have some spelling mistakes, and here's a missing PDF. There's some missing info here. So the importance, it looks like it should be low, medium, high. Since this one is missing, I'm just going to assign it to low. And then urgent is true or false. Since this was missing, I'm going to assign it to false. If you had any values like yes or something that someone put in, make sure to standardize the responses in any given row. And actually this gives us a little hint to how we're going to be building the form. If you have something like this where the responses are only a small number of values, that should give you a clue that you probably are going to want a drop down menu for this response. And then for this one, urgent, if you have yes or no or true or false, that seems like a good option for a checkbox. So now that our data is organized and cleaned, the next step is data analysis, which is all about what analysis are we going to do on this data? What are we going to create with it? What kind of calculations or statistics do we need? So for this table, I would like to get a summary of this importance column. I want to see how many of the ideas are low, medium, and high. So I'm going to select this column and then go to Insert, Pivot Table, And I'm gonna put this to a new worksheet. So then we have our pivot tables here. You didn't think you were getting a pivot table tutorial, did you? It's just so simple. For the rows, I'm gonna be putting in this importance. I'll also drag this importance into the values, and that will give me the count. So that's a super simple count. And now we have done that calculation. The next step of the Excel Power Up method is data reporting. So now that we have these numbers, how are we going to report them? So I would like to add some rows to the top of this sheet, and I want to put a little chart here that has the importance. So we're going to go back to this pivot table and go to pivot charts here in the pivot table analyze tab. And the recommended chart is a clustered column, low, medium, high. That's pretty much exactly what I want. Now there's a lot of fiddling you could do with this. Like I would probably switch these, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to do this. And it's still a little bit too big, so I'm going to add some space. I'm just going to pop it on the top of this sheet. So I would also probably add data labels. So let's actually do that. I love these buttons here because it just makes everything easy. Oh, there's my data labels. Perfect. High, medium, low. And there's my table. I mean, there's my chart. You can go to this format and design and just kind of explore. I really like this quick layout button. So you can just kind of see which one you like the best. I really like this clean look. And you can also remove these fields on the face of the button. Somewhere here. Yes, there's the field buttons. Anyway, so that's data reporting. I just wanted to breeze through that pretty quickly so you could see what that step of the Excel Power Up method is all about. So now finally we are ready for the last step of the Excel Power Up method, the user features. Oftentimes people want to jump right into the user features, but they don't have a solid foundation of data organization and data cleaning, data analysis, data reporting, all these things that I think are necessary to really understand what will make this spreadsheet just sing and fly and make it the best that it possibly could be, which is the user features. Those are the things that are like the cherry on top that really make a spreadsheet delightful to use and really creates that wow factor when you send the spreadsheet to other people. And you're going to see just how easy it is to create this user form since we already have done all of this groundwork. What we're going to do is take out all the columns from this table because when we submit the form, we're going to be creating a new row here. So we just want all of these columns to be the data fields. So I'm going to come here and right click and then transpose. And I am actually going to add some space in between. There's going to be a lot of like clicking and formatting here because it's all about formatting. We want it to be clean looking and just nice. It's all about being nice. All right, now, next we need to make the boxes that will actually be modified by the user or the person filling this out. And I'm just going to highlight those a light gray. Now let's add a buffer row here. And I'm going to select these two and kind of make them small. Now I want the entire background to be a color, excluding a box here where we want to put a boundary around the form. So I'm going to go up here to this little triangle and select the entire sheet and then hold down Control and select where I think the form should go. So now I have everything selected except this box. I'm going to go to the Home tab and shade the whole thing a dark color. So now we have this nice box where the form is, but you may be saying, hey, but what about those grid lines? Well, let's take care of that. So let's go to, I always forget where it is. Yes, it is in page layout. Right here, grid lines. There's a checkbox, so I'm going to uncheck that, and now we can no longer see those grid lines. Now, I actually quite like how these look, except for I want to justify them. And then I know that this description row is going to be bigger, so I'm going to make that big. And now I want these to be center justified. Okay, this is taking shape. I'm going to add a couple of rows. I'm just playing around at this point so that I can put a title. I'm going to call it idea form. And then you can come up here to the styles group on the Home tab. There's cell styles, and I'm going to choose that heading. Okay, now these are the boxes where the user is going to be inputting information. Here's a date field, so we want to format this how we want it to be. So if someone just types in like a date, we want it to be formatted correctly. And also I do want that to be left justified. So it's always a good idea to try it out. Just see what it is like to put stuff in there. So this one I know is gonna, since it's big, see how it's lower justified? I'm gonna make that be upper justified or top justified file. Okay, now we're getting to some really cool formatting. Remember I said that this importance is low, medium, high, and we probably will want a drop down. Let's add that right now. So with that box selected, we're going to the data tab, and then all the way over here to data validation. You could also right click and search the menus for data validation. And then under allow, select list, and source, we're just going to write low, comma, medium, comma, high. And okay, and now we have a drop down menu with low, medium, high. Perfect. And then urgent, remember the value is true or false. So we're going to add a checkbox. We're going to the insert tab, and then it's got its own little group here, checkbox. And when you check it, you can see up here that the value of that cell is true. And when it's unchecked, the value is false. So that perfectly fits with the data that we have. So now that the form is built, we are ready to actually create that automation that will take all the information from this form and add it to this data table and then clear out this idea form. So I have two methods to show you. They have very similar processes to create, but they just are slightly different. So the first one is with Office Scripts, which is in this Automate tab. And you would want to use this if you have it available to you, I think, because you don't have to change the file type, and it can work with Excel Online or Excel in Teams. So I do prefer this method. So that's why I'm showing it to you first. But the actual process is pretty similar. We're going to be recording our actions. So make sure to follow carefully with what I am doing. So the first step is to go to the data. Oh, right now it is recording once you click on that. So you'll see every time I do something, an action will appear. So the first step is to find this cell, which is the first cell of the first column in your data table, and insert table row above. So see, it inserted one row into table ideas. It knows what it's called, it knows what happened, and that's the first step. Now, the next step is kind of tedious. You're just going to be going cell by cell, copy and paste. And I always paste special. And I know that there's a keyboard shortcut. It's like old habits die hard. So you want to make sure every time you copy and paste here that you see a new little copy range thing show up to make sure it's actually doing it. Copy and paste. Like I said, it is somewhat tedious, but it's an important part of the process. Now, when you copy and paste a checkbox, if the destination does not have a checkbox inserted, it's kind of like a style, it will just do it as copy as a true or false. That's what you'll see. Okay, so now we have all of these copy ranges. We're still recording, you can see here. So the next step is to clear this entire thing. Now you may be tempted to select everything and hit the delete button, but for some reason, every time I try that, it says we can't do that action. So instead, you need to go cell by cell and delete. And you can see that it's clearing each cell. If you have a checkbox, when you get to here, instead of deleting it, just type in false. Okay, because that will uncheck the box if that's the default that you want. You really just want to set it to whatever you want the default to be. Okay, and that's basically it. Although if you wanted to, when you could go back to your data, and as a last step, you could sort this, because the best way to do this is to add a row to the top of the table, but that may not be what you want. So I'm going to sort this by date, and that will put this new row at the bottom. And you can see that that was added to this. One more thing, I should have said this at the beginning, but you want to make sure that you have absolute mode checked. I think that's the default, but just in case you accidentally get into relative mode, start over because it will not work. Okay, so we're clicking stop, and that has saved this script as a script. You should probably rename it. I'm going to call it log idea. And you can see the script. You don't need to though. Just there it is, and I'm going to demonstrate it now. So now we have a new idea here, and we will run the script. And you can see that it's all clear now. So let's go to our data and make sure that it actually added that. Yep, and there it is. And you can see that it is at the bottom of the table because it is the latest date among our ideas. Now the last step for this method is to add this script to your sheet as a button. And you can find that option here. It says add in workbook. And you can see it puts the name of the script here. It's a shape, so you can change it. And I just accidentally pressed it. But you can change the color, and I don't like that color. Let's do light blue. And you can just modify it just like a shape. Okay, and if you don't see this button, it may be because you don't have the right version of Excel, or you may not have the right type of Microsoft account. I was using my personal Microsoft account, and I didn't have that button. So then I switched over to my business Microsoft account, and I do see it. So that may be the issue. But if you are using a Microsoft account that has this availability, then I recommend that you use it because it's really nice. Now, if you don't have access to Office scripts, you can use VBA. Excel VBA is built in, but you do need to save the file as an XLSM. You can kind of see that there. For a VBA to work. So the way we do this is we go to the developer tab. If you don't see the developer tab, you can add it using this customize the ribbon button. And we're going to do kind of the exact same thing, except for we're going to say record macro, and I'm going to call it log idea and click OK. Now we are recording. You can see, because you can see the stop recording, and I'm going to do the exact same steps. Start with insert the table, copy and paste everything and then clear this whole form. I'm going to speed this up for you. So I'm still recording and I've just copied and pasted everything onto this new row. And I am going to, just like before, sort the table and then go back here. And with Excel VBA, you can just select the whole thing and clear. And it will also record where the which cell is selected. So don't like end with everything like this, you know. So just end with the selection down here. And now we're done. So we're going to click stop recording. And now you can go here to the controls and insert a button and just put that there. And then when you assign a macro, select that one that you just added. To edit this text, you can just click on it. You can't change the color or anything, but that is totally fine. So now I've put some test data in here and let's see if this works. So we click on log idea and that was kind of weird, but it did actually do it. It kind of showed what was happening, but it actually worked. So I'm not mad. And that's the other way to perform this action with Excel VBA. Like I said, you've got to make sure you save the form or the whole spreadsheet as Excel SM, and it does not work on Excel for the web, and it does not work on Excel for Teams. So those are the limitations of VBA, but it does basically the exact same thing. That's it. You've just built a fully functional automated data entry form in Excel. You can adapt this structure for all kinds of workflows: client intake, inventory tracking, task submissions, whatever fits your system. And if you want a clear roadmap for building smarter spreadsheets, grab the free resource, the Excel Power Up Method cheat sheet. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what kind of data entry form you're going to create.